Hi, good evening. I'm Priyanka Gill. I'm a venture partner at Kalaari Capital, and welcome to this week's edition of CXXO Masterclass. Let me tell you a little bit about CXXO first. We are Kalari Capital's initiative to back fantastic female founders, and we back them with capital, we back them with coaching, and we back them with community. As part of CXXO, we've launched a masterclass series where we bring in top notch women leaders to tell us about what they love, what they do, and why they do what they do. This week's edition of CXXO Masterclass is called Women Building in Finance. And there's no one better than my guest today, Paroma Chatterjee, who typifies that. Parma, you are a seasoned banking and fintech professional. You've had a much storied career over 2 decades. You launched India's first payments wallet with Airtel Money, which I didn't know. Kotak, Flipkart, Lending Card. I mean, I can go on and on. Uh, I try to count how many top 100 CEOs lists you've been on, and there are quite a few. Global Indian of the Year. So, congratulations, and what a fantastic journey.
Thanks a lot, Priyanka, and it's awesome to be on this podcast. I think the great work that you are doing at Kalaari to back women leaders, founders, and this masterclass is a part of trying to contribute to those who want to hear more. And I'm delighted to be here and share a few stories, a great conversation, and hopefully leave some nuggets out there for anyone to
Amazing.
come from there.
So, my team tried to do research. I tried to do research, but there's really not that much about you out there in the public domain. So, tell us, you were born in Calcutta, right? And you went to school there. So, how does this young girl from Calcutta become today's Parama Chatterjee?
Yeah, first of all, yes, I am a little private about having too much information about myself out there. It's more about the work I do, and I like the work I do to speak with. But going back since we're here, yes, I do come from a fairly typical middle class Bengali family in Calcutta. Again, on that note, it's a family where the fathers and uncles were all bankers or doctors or engineers, lawyers, and top-notch professionals. The mothers and aunts were all highly educated masters in some degree or the other, preferably the human arts, liberal arts, and then a homemaker. So that was the typical family environment that I grew up in. And in my generation, again, the boys, male cousins, were going to the IITs and the IIFs and cracking great jobs and getting great pay packages. But the women were kind of expected to go to one of the good colleges of the city, get a good arts degree, live good, and then marry one of these people who were graduates from the IITs or the IIFs. But in that environment, I was fortunate to be within a smaller unit, starting from my grandparents to my own parents, who still encouraged me to do anything that the boys and the male cousins in the family were doing. And that and looking at my father were my inspiration to want to contribute in my own way to create impact in the ecosystem, and more importantly, the ecosystem in India. I think that is another thing that was ingrained in me fairly early on. So from there to yes, I did my education, went to an IIM, got my MBA. There again, I was faced with an interesting choice, and that's why I wanted to kind of touch upon that as well to your question, because that's where my interest with finance also began. I had done my internship at Procter and Gamble, and I had a pre-placement offer from Procter and Gamble, but that required me to join in Singapore. And I had the good fortune of being interviewed by this impactful lady called Marti Puri Butch at that time, who came from ICICI Bank, to basically tell me that if you join an FMCG at this stage, this I'm talking about early 2000s.
Hmm.
Uh, your first few years are going to be printing out posters of offers that the company decides and ensuring that they're put up in the outlets. Okay. Whereas I represent a bank which has just become a private sector bank. The rules of private sector banking are not defined, and I'm looking for bright young minds to come and join me to figure out how to do this. Which one do you want to do? Now, I made my choice of the path less traveled, and therefore the rest, as they say, is history.
And
From then, yeah, go on.
but then you stuck to fintech, right? Like you didn't like chop and change. You stuck to it.
Yeah. So the thing is, I think the first stint itself at ICICI, where I got the opportunity to be in ICICI Cards and be a part of launching the first co-branded cards in India, got me into payments. And payments got me to see different sides of life in different customer segments. You know, what people do with their time, what people do with their money. We looked at people spending in groceries and decided to grocery co-brand to Big Bazaar. We realized that men were the ones who were being issued the cards, but the women were taking the men's cards and actually using them. So the decision on where to spend was being decided by the women, and then created the add-on card as a concept, created propositions on the card that would appeal to the women who were using it and spending it, and then subsequently transitioned for the women who were earning themselves to give them a card based on what they needed. So it kind of got me hooked to overall consumer behavior through payments. And then I got the opportunity after ICICI to be a part of the team to launch the entire cards business for Coke.
Hmm.
So that kept me hooked to banking and payments overall. The opportunity to do something different within that, the opportunity to launch something from scratch within that, and then cut all the way to 2010 when I got the opportunity from Airtel as a telecom company to go and try and define how a mobile phone can be used to make the same payments. And mobile
This
phones
was
at that
back in the
time,
day, right? When the phones weren't the phones we have today.
yeah, absolutely. These were those button phones which we used to play Snake on and get cricket scores on, right? To be able to dream up how you can use that instrument to make payments was an exhilarating challenge that I
Hmm.
couldn't say no to. And that's what kept me hooked to, and the term fintech wasn't even coined at that,
Yeah.
but that is what kept me hooked to doing this, and it was fabulous to be a part of that journey for 5 years. At first getting the first mobile wallet license in India, then building it, the basics of how a telecom company can actually power a mobile-based payment, which today is all over the country and the world. 87% of our population uses mobile payments today.
Yeah.
But to be associated with the genesis of that, it's an incredible feeling.
And then how did Revolut happen? Because it's, of course, I mean, I come from UK, it's a huge thing there. My son called me, called Mama, you talking to Revolut CEO? I'm like, yeah, he's like super excited. So how did that
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah, actually, so after I've done Airtel Money, that's the one time when I made a slightly different choice to move out of core finance to join Flipkart to help set up the marketplace business for
Hmm.
Flipkart. We did that, took that up to 200,000 plus sellers, which were contributing 70% of the units sold on the platform. But then I realized, and so at Flipkart, we had built a fairly sophisticated predictive demand engine where we could predict the demand of each SKU within a 10% plus minus error rate. But there were sellers who were willing to sell their products. Here was Flipkart, which had the wherewithal to be able to generate that kind of demand on the platform.
Hmm.
But where was the problem? The problem lay in the fact that the organized financial services sector, and this I'm talking about the 2017 2018
Hmm.
timeframe, were willing to give loans to less than 10% of the sellers on the Flipkart platform. And that's where, again, the whole circle coming back around to the need for finance bug came with me. And then lending card happened from there. So long story short, you and Vani are aware of the lending card story at that time. So we were looking at raising funds for lending card, and they raised their money led by MSX to go and basically fund the small and medium entrepreneurs who were selling on platforms like Flipkart, Amazon, who were restaurants selling on Zomato, Swiggy, or small hotels listing on
Hmm.
Poyo, travel agents who were listing on Make My Trip Yatra. And yeah, I moved to lending card to lend and grow this business. So did that for 3 years, did that to a 3,000 crore profitable book. And so that's what was going on my side. Now here, now let's cut to what was going on for Revolut. Revolut had been 5 years in, had launched across 28 countries across UK and Europe, launched first with for and then regular domestic payments within UK and Europe, and then got a banking license in Europe and deployed a full-fledged digital bank, and had kind of become the app of choice for customers to make payments on across UK and Europe. And then we came to 2020 when COVID hit the entire world, and the entire world was in lockdown. And like all other companies, Revolut also was thinking about what next? Where do we get our next phase of growth?
Oh, sorry, Paroma. Yeah.
Right. In today's day and age, you cannot think of growing a global company and going global without having presence in South America and South Asia, India. So that's what Revolut also decided to try and enter Brazil, Mexico on one end of the planet, and to enter India on the other end of the planet. And they started a search for someone to lead their setup and growth on this side of the world. And that's how it landed in my lap. And that's what I've been doing for the last 3+ years, hopefully trying to do my best.
So I find it fascinating, right? So where India is as a digital payments infrastructure, especially with the public-private partnership, we are quite advanced when compared to actually even the US, definitely the US, and even the UK to that extent. And the sheer prevalence and the propensity of the user to use their phone to make payments, especially through UPI, it's a kind of a really big engine for that we have. So how does a company like Revolut that has is its genetic in England look at a country like India and the challenges of then for Revolut to build in India? And what are the
Great question, actually, Priyanka. For a lot of the homegrown companies, it's default. You look at the
yeah.
use cases here and you go and say you build for it. But for a global company to look at it, there are some pros and cons. Okay, let me put it. First of all, obviously, the 1.2 billion plus size of population is obviously exciting for anybody. It's an eye-popping number to go and look at that. Then the amount of investments that are coming in into the sector in this country needs people to believe there must be something out there because of which people are putting their money in it. And then the stories of a lot of companies which are getting to hundreds of millions of customers and serving them. So that is the starting point of it being attractive. But that's just the absolute dry layer of the onion. You
Hmm.
start peeling off the layers of the onion and you come in to go and try and identify a white space for yourself, which is yet to be disrupted. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to be in India.
Yeah.
And one of the spaces that and you rightly said, I mean, within India, we've made humongous strides on, particularly on the domestic payments front, we've made humongous strides through UPI in particular. Right, and then there are a lot of innovations that have been tried in other spaces, like I said, London Card, and the wealth tech. But the one space that is yet to be disrupted is actually the cross-border space,
Hmm.
which was Revolut's first genesis and its core strength. And a moat in a way, because it's very difficult to replicate or really debunk cross-border and make it available for consumers in an affordable manner, be able to do real-time cross-border payments and payments and completely digitally, unless you yourself have presence across
Mm.
different countries. So that is something that Revolut already had, and we kind of got together, brainstormed, and strategy, and we figured that yeah, entering the market with a forex play will make a material difference for Indian consumers by playing to Revolut's core strength. And then we kind of said that if that's the use case that we come with, because Revolut is an overall digital bank supplying all digital payment products to
Mm.
consumers, then why should a customer need to go to any other app for their other products? So therefore, domestic. So you come in and you create a payment product for consumers, with which they can make both forex and domestic payments using this.
Mm.
So
So
that's the visualization. Yeah.
how large is your India footprint now for Revolut?
So India, there are three things that we've been doing Revolut in India, and if I'll take a minute to just walk you through the journey so far, what
Yeah.
has happened. So, 2020 is when Revolut decided that they wanted to come into India. They started the search for who would come and set it up, etc. I joined on 21st April 2021.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the first thing we had to, and I joined when there wasn't even an entity in it. We had to set up and operationalize an entity, get the permissions from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and actually set up the entity. We did that on July 20th, 2021 is when we became operational. These dates are all etched in my mind because 21 in April is an easy
Yeah.
to remember. Out there, 20th July happens to be my birthday, so that is also a memorable day on which the company got operationalized. So after operationalization, then, as I said, we wanted to enter with Forex, and we decided to start it off by acquiring a company that had an 82 or a Forex license in India. We completed, starting from scoping out the market to negotiations and due diligence and actual acquisition and change of control. That happened on 14th of February
Easy to
2022.
remember
Now,
again.
exactly. I don't need to give an explanation for why that date is
Yeah.
memorable. That was my Valentine's Day gift. Anyway, so after we acquired that company, now comes the actual task of starting to build it up, right? And one of the things that's required in India, particularly in financial services, is high degree of data sovereignty.
Mm.
So consumer, whether it's personally identifiable information or transaction data, cannot go overseas. It's one of the things that is very pretty much cast in stone as far as RBI regulations are concerned. So for a platform like Revolut, we had to actually localize that tech
Mm.
stack for India. So we got down to the mammoth task of localizing Revolut's tech stack for India purposes. A lot of global companies, and here your benchmark for comparison is global banks like
Mm.
HSBC, Citi, Stanley, JP Morgan. They've all had to localize in the past, and they've spent years and millions of dollars in localizing their tech stack to be operational in India. Certain companies, and we know MasterCard, American Express, have had tough times when they had to stop issuance because
Mm.
they had to, do their data localization on certain aspects of their product.
Mm.
But so we did that. I mean, starting 2022 mid when we started working on it to 2023, and in 18 months flat, I'm very proud to say that we've
Mm.
actually localized Revolut, almost built another Revolut here in India. So while we were doing that, the other thing that happened was global headquarters, London, realized the quality of talent that was being used. The product and managers and engineers and
Yeah.
designers that we were getting in from India first. And then the other thing that happened was demand started coming from east of us. The rest of the countries that Revolut was present in Asia Pacific, like Japan, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, that in a global company, they were having trouble with overlapping time zones with the UK. Revolut ran with one central product and engineering team based out of the UK. So they
Mm.
started asking, why can't this talented team that's being built and put up in India, why can't they start building products for us? Second thing that we started doing, and that has grown big time. So now resources from India, very talented product managers, operations managers, engineers, designers, all of it from India, who are working across core payments, card payments, wealth management, etc., to build out products for even the other markets that Revolut has. And in this time that we built this, Revolut has grown from 28 markets to 44 markets.
Amazing.
So that's like the second big thing that has been going on here. And the third thing that happened logically when you set up an entity over here, you started operations over here, you gradually start moving the back office or the back end of financial transactions of the European bank into India. So today we have a large workforce in India that is supporting the entire back-end operations from customer onboarding and KYC to sanctions checks, screening to ongoing transaction monitoring, all the way to fraud investigations, reporting being done from
Mm.
India. So that's the third thing that got done. So these are the three things that are actually going on with Revolut India. And coming back full cycle to the business earlier this year. So after we got the Forex license, we decided to apply for the domestic payment license,
Mm.
which we applied for midway in 2023, and early 2024 we got the license. And then we've been building the domestic payments product as well. And as a matter of fact, we built the systems, got them audited and submitted back to India. Now it's their
So when
goodwill.
do you set to launch domestically?
So right now the ball is in RBI's court to convert our in-principle authorization to a full authorization based on the system audit report that we submitted. Fingers crossed, because we built ensuring regulatory compliances first. So hopeful of getting that soon. I shall not commit any timelines That's for RBI to do. So when you manage to get the folks from DPSS on your chat to ask them,
Yeah.
and then yeah, but hopefully with all of that, we should be able to launch with the cumulative forex plus domestic and all payments in one app kind of a solution in the India market in the next year, which is something which will be unique.
Valentine's Day is not far away next year, so you never know.
My Valentine's gift to the country. Yes, I wish I could do that.
Amazing. So that's fantastic, right? So you're actually getting to build out a company within a company entirely, actually.
Yes, and that's kind of the sweet spot of being an entrepreneur within a company.
Yeah.
You can either look at yourself to start from scratch, set up a company with a different name, and get in your own funding, or you look at the parent company as your investor, give you funds, and do something.
Yeah. So now
That's
let's change tack a little bit, right? So again, I find finance fascinating because it's one of the few sectors where women have seemed to have had a bit of an upper hand in terms of, the well-known bankers that you all remember. Excuse me. A lot of them are women, right? But in the world
yes.
of fintech, we haven't seen that transition happen. And why is that?
Yeah. Well, so true. You've caught on a nerve, and I was fortunate to having been groomed in one such organization that has given us from a Chanda Kochar to a Lalita Gupte to Kalpana Morparia to a Shikha Sharma to a Marti Puri Butch. They were all ICICI alumni, and I was a young woman looking up to women like that when I was a part of that bank. But now coming to but one of the things though there, women innately seem to have a bit of a, pardon the use of the word, but fear when it comes to core finance and numbers and stability. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, yes, there are women who have gone through that and made a career in banking, and banking became one of the go-to places for a lot of women to work. Even traditionally, in cooperative banks in the south, State Bank of Mysore, etc., it's employed a lot of women. So that's one side of it. Then, but to cut to technology, core technology and engineering, starting from the number of graduates, engineering graduates for top colleges that are women, to the number of women who are employed in core tech companies, that is also low because women tend to have lesser participation in tech. Now,
Yeah.
when you bring the two together into finance and tech, I think the intersection of finance itself, which is overwhelming, and use of technology within finance, which is overwhelming, the two come together to have even fewer women who want to cause that or be a part of it. And
Yeah.
that's something, I mean, I know you are and Kalaari are also working actively to debunk by encouraging a lot more women and women-led enterprises and founders in the world of fintech. I'm actively working to get more and more female participation, starting from my own company. I mean, uh, I am proud to say that against an industry average of 10%, I have 40% women
That's
diversity.
fantastic.
But you need to do things differently in order to do that in fintech.
Yeah, so now let's just look back at your journey, right? So, being a woman in this field, all these are cliche questions. And I think it's important to trace some of these steps because that's how the women who are coming behind you will also get a chance to learn. So, what made you stand out? What really helped you get where you are? Were there some traits? Were there some personality quirks that you had that got you where you are today?
Actually, Priyanka, this is something I think you will relate to as well because I see that in you too at times. Is that I never thought of myself as a woman in business, and I think that's sort of the first thing I want to talk about because a lot of women coming in thinking, "Oh, I'm a woman coming in into business," is itself then you start thinking differently about,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, I can contribute differently, or I need to be treated." Throughout my now 20 plus years of working, there's not been a single day when I've come into work thinking that I'm a woman in business and therefore there should be something. I think that's an important thing to put out there to all women who are listening that come in there as a professional and try and be the best possible professional that you can in your sphere rather than thinking yourself as a woman in that particular sphere and what you can do or cannot do as a woman. That's been one thing. So I think a lot of the qualities which I think have brought me here are
Mm.
qualities which I would say are not specific to women. They're qualities which I would say would be specific to any man or woman who wants to become a great professional and do a great job and get to the top of their profession and run a company.
What are
Uh,
those qualities?
those qualities, if I had to pick up the first quality, I think which is fairly underrated is clarity,
Mhm.
which I don't see in a lot of people, but clarity of vision, clarity of purpose. Even when you're young, having the clarity that this is what I want to do and this is what I do not want. Again, just to give you an example, I was all the way back in ICICI, right? I was also associated at the time when we had gotten Mr. Amitabh Bachchan as our brand ambassador to do a brand
Yeah.
campaign with him, right? Uh, and I remember in my early 20s having a conversation saying, what does an actor have to do with a financial service? Okay. Uh, but to go back to that thesis, to go and say that you need to build a product that is so powerful that it gets word of mouth amongst its users and people just come to it is what we should be building, not build yet another standard Me Too financial product and then get an actor to go and say that, hey, this is the one that you should come for. And that's where I'm cutting to the co-branded cards that I spoke about, the Big Bazaar and then the HPCL, the first fuel co-brand in India. We came up with those from that thought process.
Mm.
Those never needed an Amitabh Bachchan or anyone else to come and sell those because the women who were using it, who were seeing a benefit on their regular monthly grocery shopping, that itself was worth it for millions of cards to be sold.
Yeah. So clarity is one. What else is there that you think that makes you kind of stand out?
So the first is clarity. The second, again, a fairly underrated skill is consistency and consistency of energy. Okay, a lot of us, and I've also had times, and I say that you're not your best always, right? You have your ups and downs. There are times when you really go after something, something doesn't happen, you will really go down, and your energy levels will also
Mm.
fall back. Uh, to treat both of those with the same level of intensity is something that you need to learn. So to
Mm.
me, despite the successes that I've had in my career, I've never had like humongous highs and lows. Yes, I feel happy that I managed to come. But it's not like wow, and I'm chasing after that, and that doesn't happen. It all breaks loose. And I've seen that a lot with youngsters and companies. They're working from appraisal to appraisal, right? What is my rating? I don't know the rating that I've got ever in my career. Okay, because that's not something I've been bothered about. I've been bothered about, okay, what is it that I've launched? What difference has it made to consumers? How many people are actually using it? Is the company making money out of it?
Mm.
Those were the questions I was asking, not how much I was getting rated and how much is the increment that I got vis-a-vis the next person. So
Yeah.
the second thing is to, there's this Rudyard Kipling poem called If you can meet with triumph and disaster and
Mm.
treat both imposters just the same, I would say it's not an esoteric line from a poem. I mean, if you learn to do that, then yeah, success happens good. But work towards what is contributing. And
Yeah.
sometimes
So
things
the highs and the lows don't trouble you so much then.
exactly. So I think that's a second quality to build for resilience over a long period of time to ensure that you have a long run successful career and not a blip somewhere and then filter out. So clarity of thought, vision, purpose. Second, resilience and the ability to deal with the highs and lows. Is the second. The third is a tactical one, which is potentially again,
Mm.
that's something I'm talking about fairly underrated qualities, but most important when you look at it. The
Yeah.
people that I have seen around as well who ended up with disproportionate success are the ones who are fussed about that last one. They know their data. And that's where the difference often lies in that whether it is data or that last leg of the consumer experience where you can cut down a customer onboarding by one screen.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things. So the attention to detail where you look at everything, even now, I don't know what my product team thinks about it, but I look at every screen and every word on the screen.
Oh, they love you.
So, for example, on the Revolut app, we've actually created a way for customers to track the flow of their money, just like you can track the flow of food delivery or an e-commerce delivery on the website. Why? From the simple insight that finance is often a black box.
Yeah.
Consumers don't know where their money is.
Yeah.
And particularly in cross-border and things like that, large ticket transactions, they have the heart in their mouth till the money reaches to where it's supposed to. or if they're supposed to get money from somebody overseas, they don't know how much is finally going to get credited, how much is going to get cut along the way,
100%.
and when it is going to happen. So imagine an app that debunks the whole thing. They take it under
Hmm.
the hood. So, these are all things that come in not from any rocket science or somebody waving a magical wand. It's from having an attention to detail about
Got
this.
it. So your
So
CEO is
that's the
female,
third
right?
quality. I
The
am
global
female.
CEO.
Our global CEO is male.
He's male. Okay. So how does it
So
work? Like, how do the dynamics work?
I think it's an interesting dynamic. It's which has been working touch wood for the last 3 years because he doesn't think of himself as either male or female. I don't think of myself as either male or female. He thinks of himself as the global CEO of the company with an ambition to have a large footprint across the world and have a large population across the world using our products and making meaningful products which contribute to it. I share the same vision. So there is a vision alignment for us regardless of our gender. And I think that's at the heart of what makes it work. Yes, styles are different. He has his own, and there you could call it a male female difference. He has his own male, which tends to often be more data and process centric way of working. I'm also highly data and process driven, but you could say that what women bring to the table is a higher degree of EQ. So I spend the time understanding what people want, what motivates them, what doesn't. But the other thing that has worked is you let people be, you let them run things with their own style, which is why I run India the way I want to run it. And he is just fussed about whether India is delivering results or not. So I think those are the two things which kind of makes it work. That you have an aligned shared vision, and where there are differences, you learn to respect each other for the differences and allow each other to space, as long as the final objective is very much. I think that.
Yes, that's basically key, right? I mean, you don't take yourself so seriously, male, female, and just kind of have that work ethic that really drives them. How can we encourage more women to become the next Paroma? How can we encourage more women to join fintech? What do you think?
I mean, overall, if you guys are if folks who are watching, if you like me or Priyanka and want to sit in the place, you can do it. Is the first thing that I want to tell all of you out there. We're humans. We're not magically exceptionally different from any of you. That's what I'm sharing. That I also came from a fairly middle class family. It's no rocket science. It's just been uh, an exceptionally high sense of belief in myself, and I think that's one of the things that you do need to have that I can do. Again, just to give you an example, I was at one of these women conferences a few weeks earlier to get from women about what is it that they need as support. I'm working with the government on some policy decisions on this as well. On what kind of support do you need to enable more opportunities for women in that region? The first question that came to me from somebody in the audience was, can you create more part-time opportunities for us like virtual assistants?
Hmm.
Now, while I don't want to completely dismiss that, what I said, and I in that forum, but that was a small group, so I'm going to share that publicly here as well, is I think women highly underrate themselves with their ambition of what they ask for is a part-time job or a virtual assistant.
Hmm.
So the first thing I think is to have that high sense of belief and that ambition that I want to be a CEO of a company. Why not? I want to be a farmer. I want to be a Priyanka,
Hmm.
right? And that's your starting point. And then you start planning out the steps that are going to lead you there. But again, while you plan that out, the thing is not to get so attached to it that if something is not going right, you just give up along the way. So you systematically work towards it and have the patience and resilience to see through the tough times. Tough times are bound to happen. Tough times have happened in my life. Tough times have happened in hers.
Hmm.
So you have. So it's not like you've had a magical streak of up throughout that has got us. It's just that we've had the resilience to go through the tough times, turn it around, and then continue on the journey. And the journey at an overall level after the ups and downs is going to have an overall uphill trajectory. That's
Yeah, it
plus.
averages out, right?
Yeah, it completely averages out, and the curve is bound to head upwards
Hmm.
as long as you believe and continue putting in the right efforts. Now, specifically to women, uh, one of the things that tends to happen is we tend to put ourselves secondary to other things that society expects. And that's the one thing that I would caution women against because that's one thing that I have never done. I have actually put my ambitions, my needs fairly upfront.
Mm.
And as long as my ambitions and my needs are taken care of, I'm well equipped to take care of the needs of everybody else around, whether it is bringing up my son or it's supporting my elderly parents. And that's what I mean. A lot of times women tend to think that those are primary responsibilities and
Yeah.
therefore cut back on other ambitions in order to achieve those. It
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily work that you don't need to
And
necessarily.
men don't do that.
Men
Men
don't
don't
do that
stop
because
working till they become a good father. Or
exactly. They don't give this reason that I'm stopping work because I need to be a father. Or there are some men who are coming out now and taking longer paternity breaks. And after that, they come back to point say, hey, I was a great worker before that. I want to come back and just take on from where I took a break. We women tend to be underconfident about these things, even when we're coming back afterwards.
yeah,
We often, yeah, to oftentimes beat ourselves up in our own head to go and say that, you know what, will I be able to come back? Will I be able to do a good job once again? So I think the overall thing is to get those questions out of your own head and just believe in yourself and don't compromise. If you need help, ask for help.
yeah.
Ask for
And I
help
think
at the
one thing,
workplace.
perfection, right? Like we women, for some
Yeah,
reason, want to see perfection in all that you do, and
correct.
that's hard.
And perfection is not reality.
Yeah,
And you don't have to be perfect. There is nothing that's perfect. There is no perfect symmetry any, anywhere. It's absolutely okay to give it your best and have a good outcome. And that's
yeah,
what you should aspire to do. And the other thing that I keep talking about, this whole 10-handed avatar of women that you're juggling 10 balls at the same time, you don't need to. It's absolutely okay to let a few balls drop. Again, in the spirit of sharing something personal, I don't enjoy cooking. So I've kept a great cook because I enjoy having good food in the house.
yeah,
But if I don't enjoy cooking, I don't need to beat myself up that I also need to be a good cook along with being good at running a company. So you
mm,
pick your battles where your strengths are and play to your own strengths and don't feel the pressure of being great at everything. You don't
yeah,
need to. You're great at whatever it is that you're doing.
yeah. You know, almost want like the spirit of a woman, but just the thought process of a man. You know, just meld them together, and then
And
yeah, interesting. So, Parama, now we come to this section that's called that one thing, right? It's kind of a rapid fire round. I just ask you a question, and you will just tell me like
okay,
that.
nobody gives me coffee hampers for this. Priyanka, which of your investee companies goodie bag are you going to give me
We'll
to like?
send you a proper hamper from Kind Life and from a whole bunch of other companies. We'll send you samosa party samosas. We'll send
All
you a
right.
reconstruct skincare. Don't worry, you'll get a really good hamper at the end of it, right?
All right, that is tempting enough to try and get me to think about cool
Yeah.
answers. Okay,
So I think
shoot.
the team is listening, and I'm sure they're going to make that happen now. So yeah, so that one thing you had to unlearn.
The one thing that I had to unlearn. Okay, when I moved from banking to the first, I said fintech sector, the first thing I had to unlearn was that regulations are cast in stone. Okay, when you're in a bank, you're not encouraged to question regulations, why they are, and go back. My experience, and now I work very closely with the regulator. I think when you go with a proper business case and a logic back to the regulator, even the regulator is willing to listen. And we've seen a lot of policy changes happen and sandboxes happen. So the one thing that I had to unlearn was this entire thing: the regulations are cast in stone, and that's the Bible, and that you can't question. Then start. No, you can actually create a business case if you have a logical question.
And how about that one thing you had to unlearn personally?
Unlearn personally, okay, the urge to do everything myself. I think this is a curse which afflicts a lot of people who tend to be good at certain things. You think you're the person who can do it the best, but to be able to step back and resist the temptation of doing it yourself and entrusting others to do it, even if sometimes it is 70 or 80% of how it would have been had you done it, to be okay with that uh, is the other thing that I had to personally unlearn in my style as I grew through leadership. But
Hmm.
eventually, once I got over that cusp and got comfortable with that myself, I think it's benefited me because I've attracted a lot of very talented individuals into my team, and they've surprised me with doing things better than what I could have done. And
Hmm.
I held on to that thought process that I will do things myself because I think I'm the best at doing it, I think I would have helped myself and
Yeah.
my company and my teams back. So
So
that's the other
talking
thing.
about your team, that one thing they wish you did.
Ah, give them more time, I think, because there are so many things that I want to do and I want to do with them that there's a lot that's going on, and I keep engaging them in conversations about those. If I don't know whether I'm right or not, and those of you listening can give me that feedback. But I think yeah, they might be thinking, okay, let us do this one thing, finish it off, and then have conversations about this.
And what is that one thing that they wish that you did more of?
Talk to them. So I know this. I know for a fact that a lot of my team members to meet and talk and spend time with me. I think it has been really fruitful for to learn about them as people, their work, their likes, dislikes, and I think the outcome's better. They also get to figure out my thought process on the why behind the what I'm asking them to do, etc. And the outcome has always been better. But as the team scales, like in India now we have like 4,800 people, right? It's difficult to give time to everybody, but I think yeah, my team would probably want more time. Is what I'm guessing. This I think
What
I'm pretty right on.
what is that one thing that we don't talk about enough as women leaders, specifically?
This I don't think any of us are comfortable talking about the challenges that personal challenges because a lot of us women are fairly shy of sharing personal things out in the open. We women tend to have a fear of being judged. What will other people think if I've been through something? But believe you me, all of us have gone through our own struggles professionally, personally. I think more of us should get comfortable talking about those because I think that inspires other women who are going through those to believe that they can overcome and get there. Otherwise, the persona that a lot of women leaders tend to give out is we're strong, we're infallible, we're perfect, and that's why we're there. We're not. That's why I mean we're humans. We've been through our
Yeah.
challenges. We have our own strengths, weaknesses. It's just we've overcome them and doggedly kept that belief and the confidence and the faith and ambition and kept working at it, and we got to where we have. So I think we should get a little more open about sharing those and create a more safe space for women to come out with their challenges and talk about them openly. Here, let me talk about the boy club on the other hand, for example. Boys do share everything they're going through at work, their disappointments, what is going on the personal side, which is impacting them, their health, etc. They share with each other, and in that sharing, they get a lot of nuggets from other people who've done that as well. And not just that, you'll realize when you share, you'll get a lot of goodwill as well. There are people who will step up to
Yeah.
help you through that and back you through that. I think we women need to do that a lot more within the women groups and women leaders in particular,
Yeah, and I think
publicly.
normalize the fact that there are challenges,
Yes,
right? Don't tend to
yes,
normalize that enough. Yeah,
yes.
so in that spirit, what was your biggest challenge?
What was my biggest challenge? This one is honestly no rocket science. It was, yeah, I mean, setting up a company from scratch at the time when my child was a toddler. Again, um, because I've done this in a disproportionate manner. Just again to share with you, my son was just 6 months old when I decided to take on the challenge of setting up Flipkart's marketplace and relocated from Delhi, where I was set, to move to Bangalore, where I knew nobody. So I moved to a new industry, a new job with the mantle of setting up something from scratch in a new city where I knew nobody with a 6 month old baby. So, I mean, that in itself was a challenge, but then just to share my way of doing things on this, and this I think will be known in the Kalari offices as well. So one of the we had one particular board meeting. This was separate to Flipkart, but we had one in Bharat's office in Kalari, and I had to make a presentation there. And at that time, yeah, I did not have a full-time domestic helper. I was still working on a, and there's a lot of women, young mothers will probably relate. I had a morning, evening, from somebody coming in
Yeah.
the morning and the babysit till the evening. And this person didn't turn up on that day. Now, what would have, and this is pre-COVID, so this is not remote. This is like very much in office physical. And a lot of women in that situation would have taken the call to call up their boss, apologize, or say that,
Yeah.
"I'm sorry, can't do this, I have to stay home with my kid." I instead took my kid along to that office, put them outside the Kalaari boardroom with Vani's EA, with a coloring book and crayons and a Lego set, and he was just doing his stuff while I went in and made the presentation.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I've made calls to, do these things and not, and that's why I'm again repeating, to not cut back on what I need to do, but make
Yeah.
adjustments.
Yeah.
And nobody says no. I think he was very much welcome in the office, right? And made to feel at home and adjusted. And I
100%.
think that's what I mean by when women will put themselves out there to go and say, "Hey, I want to do this, but in order to do this, I need this help." A lot of people will come out there and not just be accepting, acknowledge that and appreciate that. And it's just I don't think women do that often enough, and I would encourage a lot of women to do that. Don't give up in
Yeah.
your own head
I
that you can't
can
do something.
give personal assurance that Vani and Kalai does it all the time. So it's a perfect place
Yeah,
to do that. What's the one thing you wish you knew when you were starting out
starting out in my career or starting out at Revolut.
in your career?
Ah, uh, the one thing that I knew when I was starting out at my career, I wish. I think this a lot of people will be able to relate to who started their career in the early 2000s. Wish we knew the pace at which technology will change,
Hmm.
because a lot of the things that we ended up building through the 2000s are genuinely no longer relevant.
Hmm.
So we've had to think on our feet and change really fast over the last decade or so. So when I started out my career, yeah, I mean, if some epiphany would have warned us that things are going to change, we might have done things differently to future-proof.
And starting out at Revolut, what did you wish you knew?
Starting out at Revolut, what I wish I knew was how little the world really knows about the kind of financial advancement that has happened in India.
Oh,
I mean, being in India, we kind of assume that everybody knows about UPI and the tech stack and all the great work that has happened there. I mean, biometric authentication in the first place to real-time transaction processing, the open API architecture. We just took these things for granted, and I kind of also assumed that a global company coming into this space would know about it. But it's not specific to Revolut. But when I got exposure to, like I said, these 44 countries across, I am taken aback by how little the world knows about what has happened here and the capabilities that sit here. And a
you should market
lot of
that
the
better.
work that I have, yeah, I think I think we've started doing that now with Nandan, doing a lot of these road shows and all. But I think a lot of the work that I do is actually evangelizing for the India cause about what is happening. I mean, when I talk about the 6,000 plus fintechs in India, it's eye popping for people. Really, there are so many. But
It's like
and
back
when
in
you
the
start,
day you go abroad. You speak English?
yeah, it's kind of the new age phenomenon is that you can actually make a real time payment for a £1 coconut water that you buy on the side of the road. Wow.
All right.
So yeah,
Last,
I wish.
what's the best advice you got?
What's the best advice I've got is use your gut instinct for the really big important decisions and rely on data for all the rest.
And what's the worst advice?
Worst advice. Worst advice is take the job that pays the most.
Did you take it?
You think I did?
No, I don't think so. But yeah, so the job.
Exactly. No, so to go back again, uh, the salary has never been my decision point in making choices. It has always been the kind of job that I wanted to do, and this is again for the youngsters out there as well. I think salary and wealth follows if you do the right thing for the right reasons, and your motivation is not the salary itself to switch. And oftentimes, and I'm going to say this here as well, I see it in a lot of youngsters, the temptation to move when there is another job that offers them a little bit more. But if you instead stay in one place and build something solid to your name and your own, and then that's for having built that, and you actually have your learnings from having built something, that stands you in a much better stead a few years down the line than it would if you take those small inflections
Yeah.
along the
And
way. So
just before we go, right, this idea that Women and finance, even at a personal finance level, we don't tend to do on an average very well together, right? Women are a
Yeah.
bit more hesitant about taking control of their finances. So historically, that's been the case, of course, with like one of our investing companies actually trying to change that. So, what was your take on?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true, Priyanka, what you're talking about. The only relationship that most girls, and let's start with girls in childhood, are taught to have with money is that of spending.
Yeah,
Okay. Your, young women are often, even through your teenage, are kept in the dark about the family's finances, assets, all of it. They tend to get discussed with the boys in the family, but not so much with the girls. So it starts like right from there.
yeah,
And now, as they grow older, also, therefore, that phenomenon continues with the financial reins getting transferred A to the brother, then if they get married, and when they do so, to the husband or the father-in-law. So it's somewhere that it's very male dominated when it comes to taking financial decisions. So even women who are working, full-fledged, earning women, doing well, they tend to leave the taking care of the finances part to the husbands or the men in their life. Oh, okay, I earn, put it in the bank account. My husband decides what to do with it, where to invest that, etc. I don't want to deal with it, and that's something I think as women we have to debunk. Right. Again, two or three really important things. I'm going back to the clarity that I spoke about. Like clarity is not just something that you need at the workplace. Clarity is something that you need in life as well. What do you want to do? And clarity about what do you want to do with your money, and not just spending. How you're going to grow it, where are you going to keep it? I mean, a woman needs to take charge of her own money and demarcate how much she wants to save, how much she wants to invest, how much she wants to spend. And the second is the power of compounding. Some of us have witnessed that power, and I think more women should think about it's not just about how much you earn, it's about how much you set aside and allow it to
yeah,
compound and take charge of it for yourself. And the third is educating yourself. It really it feels very overwhelming to a lot of women. I know that, and I know that even within my friends and my family as well. But it just takes 2 hours a month of reading up, and there's a lot of content and literature out there to give you the basics about where to put in your money, which is uh, safe investment. But I think that effort needs to be made to look at that as an important area to research and get yourself knowledgeable on and get financially independent. The kind of delight and confidence that comes from being financially independent is unparalleled, and I wish that for all of them, not just bringing in the
absolutely.
money and then relying on some man to do so.
100%. And again, I'm giving a shout out to our CXX investment company, Lakshmi. Please download the
Hmm.
Lakshmi app for that. And thank you
Yes,
so much, Roma. This is fantastic. Um, I think I know you extremely well now. We should meet for a drink sometime soon. Thank you so much for your time.
absolutely. It was awesome being here with you, Priyanka. And I honestly lost track of time the way we were chatting, and I'd be happy to continue that offline sometime.
Thank you
It
so
was
much.
great being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.